Moving on, we have what we call the marketing mix. Let me move this here. So the marketing mix is a combination of 4 P's. There's product, price, place, and promotion. So when you think about creating a new product or trying to sell a new product, you have to think about these 4 things. The first is the product itself. What do the customers want? What features do they need? How and when will they use it? What will it be called? How it will it be branded, and so on and so forth. And the second is the price. Are you going to make it really cheap? Are you going to make it really expensive? Or just basically, how are you going to price it? And is the price worth it compared to its function or what the consumer actually reaps from that product or service? Third is the place. What we mean by place is where the consumers will actually be able to get that product, but also where they're going to get the information regarding the product or services. And last but not least, and I guess most important, is how you're going to promote that product. Are you going to do it across different different places? Are you going to do it on social media as well as the TV and so on? Or are you going to only use one platform? And who is your audience? How are you going to reach your audience? For instance, if you are targeting teenagers, then it would be best that you use the social media. But if you're targeting, for instance, people who are older, who are, say, above 60, then it would be best to use TV, because that's what they access the most. And how are you going to make the product stand out compared to its competitors? For instance, Pak Rahmat mentioned already about Oreo and how they made the biscuit, which is just an ordinary biscuit, that distinct compared to other biscuits we know. There's other things that is really distinct. For instance, Nike has Just Do It, and then we also have Pertamina, mulai dari nol. I think that's right? Pertamina mulai dari nol, and so on and so forth. Those are taglines and brands that try to catch the consumers according to the segmentation of the the customers. So I think that's it about marketing mix for me. Pak Rahmat, do you want to add something?
Yeah, just to relate this slide from the previous one, the marketing mix is what being done by the marketer. By the marketer who bring their products to the market. All of this marketing mix strategy, as explained by Mbak Vira, is based on understanding of the consumer behavior, especially the 3 parts, the segmentation, targeting, and positioning. So the product, design of a product is based on who are the segment and what is the specific targets of the segment for the product, and what kind of position in the mind of the consumer is the product of services intended by the marketer. Also the price, promotion strategies, and placement of the product, all are based on these 3 keywords: segmentation, targeting, and positioning. And the 3 keywords are based on the research in consumer behavior. So these 2 are clearly what, as I mentioned earlier, that the 2 sets of the coins. This coin is played by the marketer. The other side, the consumer behavior, is played out by the research, which is brought to the practice of the marketer. That's, I think. Yeah.
Great. Moving on, we will now talk about how we can reach a successful marketing. As we know, not every product that goes into the market are successful, and those that are successful actually are able to establish 3 things. The first is customer value, the second is customer satisfaction, and the third is customer retention. We can talk about this one by one. So this is here we talk about customer value. Pak Rahmat, do you want to explain about customer value?
Yeah, in short, value, consumer value means what value a consumer feel that they get from a purchase that they are doing. The question is how to measure value. When we are measuring the value of a product purchase, for example, of a product that is already acquired by the consumer through the purchase, that means we have to compare the ratio between what benefits from consumption that is perceived by the consumer as compared to the resources that they use to obtain those benefits. The resources can be, and the most obvious one is the money or the monetary resources, as well as the effort spent to get the product, as well as the time, the delay between the purchase and the time when you get the product. For example, when you do online purchase, you have to wait can be several days up to maybe several weeks before you get the product. So the more resources that you use, you spend to get the product, and the less that you perceive the benefit you get from the product, that means the smaller value that you get from the purchase. In contrast, when you think that you get a big benefit compared to the small amount of resources that you spend, that means your purchase is valuable to you. The product is valuable to you. So I think that's what's called as customer value.
And now with customer satisfaction. So customer satisfaction is basically someone's perception of the performance of the product or service in relation to their expectations. So when you buy a product, you have an expectation to whether that product to how that product performs, and customer satisfaction relates to that expectation. If your expectation is fulfilled or beyond fulfilled, then you will be satisfied, or if it is not fulfilled, then your customer satisfaction is low. And in consumer behavior, we actually categorize customer satisfaction into a few different groups. So it's actually based on loyalty. There are loyalists, apostles, defectors, terrorists, hostages, and mercenaries. These, I think, are actually really strong titles, but yeah, it's not actually that bad. So the loyalists are actually people who are very satisfied and keep purchasing a product. For instance, you know that people who use Apple keep on using the Apple product. So you can say they're loyalists. And there is actually, apostles is a category of the loyalists, which are loyal customers whose experience is beyond the expectations of themselves before they purchase the product. And they actually provide a very positive word of mouth. So they tell their friends that, oh, this is a good product, this is a good service, you should use this product or service. Those are called apostles. So loyalists are just people who are satisfied and keep purchasing, but the apostles go way beyond that and actually recommend the service and product to other people. And then there's defectors who feel neutral or merely satisfied with a company, but are very likely to switch to another company. So one of the things that marketers should do is work more on these defectors. They shouldn't work too much on the loyalists and apostles because they are already very loyal, but defectors are kind of like, I like it, but you know, I could use another product, it's fine to me. So marketers should target these people so that they become loyalists or apostles. And then there's terrorists who had negative experiences, and contrast to apostles, they actually give negative word of mouth about the product or service. And then there's hostages who are unhappy but stay with the company because low prices. For instance, I don't like using a certain brand of phone, but because that's the only thing I can afford, so I I'm not going to buy any other product. But one of the bad things about hostages is they complain a lot, and because they complain a lot, it takes away a lot of time and resources from the company. So what the company usually do is they kind of they kind of ignore these people. And last, our mercenaries are very satisfied customers who have no real loyalty to the company and may defect because of a lower price elsewhere or on impulse. And this is actually defying the satisfaction and loyalty rationale. Pak Rahmat, do you have anything to add on?
Yeah, very interesting, isn't it? All the terms which is actually used both by practitioners and some of the scientists use these categories of consumer based on the satisfaction. I'd like to just put some emphasis on the difference between the customer value and customer satisfaction. The two are the two sides, the opposite side. The value is something to do with the logic, rational motives, rational calculations of consumer behavior. Satisfaction is more to do with the affect, the emotions of the consumer, the psychological side of the consumer. Clearly, consumer are both rational and subjective, if we not calling it as irrational, because that's the two aspect of our self as a human being. So both satisfaction and value are important in terms of building the lasting relationship with consumer, building loyalty from the consumer, because that can make a business a success or failure. That's
a really good point, Pat. And now we have the last important dimension that contributes to successful marketing, which is customer retention. So basically, when you buy a product for the first time, you're a consumer, but if you keep buying it, you become a customer. That's kind of like the basic definition of consumer and the basic difference between consumer and customer. And what you actually want to do is make consumers a customer. You want them to come back again and again. You want them to keep buying products and services that you sell. And that is because attracting new customers or attracting new consumers is actually very expensive. You have to create more advertisement. You just have to spend a lot more money than just trying to maintain those who are already buying your products. And the second, people who are loyal to our products actually are willing to buy new products that we launch, even though they haven't tried it yet. And they're also willing to try out or buy products that are secondary. For instance, if I'm sorry to use the Apple brand a lot, but I think it's a really good illustration. So a lot of people use the MacBook or laptops that are sold by Apple, but then Apple launches a lot of like side products that are not as essential as a MacBook. They have EarPods, they have, I think they have a watch and stuff like that. So there's a lot of different products that are not that essential as the MacBook, but people buy it anyway, even though they can get cheaper products from different brands. And that's because loyal customers are willing to try out and willing to buy secondary products that are not as essential as the main product. And then they give positive word of mouth. Just a little point here. Word of mouth is actually more, I don't know, in terms of strength, it's actually more strong than advertisement, because when you get a positive word of mouth from people you know, you're easily influenced. But when you see an advertisement, it's not necessarily so. Not all advertisements are strong, but usually positive word of mouth from people you know are things that you can rely on.